All right, so are you ready to dive deep into some K-pop?
Always down for a deep dive, especially when it comes to K-pop.
Awesome, because today we are talking about Hwasa from Mamamoo.
Ooh, interesting choice.
Yeah.
She's such a force in the industry. I'm really excited to dig into this.
I know, right? Now, even if you aren't a huge K-pop fan, trust me, her story is fascinating. We are talking about talent, breaking barriers, and staying true to yourself, even in a world as intense as K-pop.
Totally. K-pop has those really specific expectations, and Hwasa just blows them out of the water.
Exactly. And that's what we are going to unpack today. What makes her so unique? Why is she so impactful? We will get into all of that and more.
Let's do it. I've been digging into a ton of articles and interviews, so I'm ready with all the details.
Perfect. So let's start with the basics. For anyone who might not be familiar, who is Hwasa and what's Mamamoo all about?
So Hwasa, whose real name is An Hae-jin, is a South Korean singer, rapper, and songwriter. She's best known as a member of the K-pop girl group Mamamoo. They debuted back in 2014.
2014, that feels like both a lifetime and just yesterday in the world of K-pop.
Right, K-pop moves so fast. But even back then, Mamamoo stood out. They had this retro jazz R&B inspired sound that was totally different from the typical bubblegum pop that was dominating the charts.
Okay, so paint a picture for us. What did that sound like? Because when I think K-pop, I think super polished, catchy hooks, danceable beats.
You're not wrong, but Mamamoo, they brought these soulful vocals, these amazing harmonies. Think old school meets cutting edge. Like imagine if you took a dash of Ella Fitzgerald, mixed in some Stevie Wonder, and then threw in a modern K-pop beat.
Wow, that's quite a combination.
It totally worked.
Yeah.
That unique sound, combined with their undeniable talent, is what made them stand out from the crowd right from their debut.
And Hwasa, she wasn't just content with blending in, she really pushed boundaries, didn't she?
Oh, absolutely. In K-pop, image is everything, right? And there are very particular and honestly sometimes limiting beauty standards.
And she basically said, nah, I'm good.
Pretty much. Think bold makeup outfits that broke all the mold. She was making a statement from day one. And then there was her performance at the 2018 MMA Awards.
Iconic. That's the one that really got people talking, right?
Exactly. She owned that stage in a bodysuit, completely challenging the typical body image expected of female idols. It was a defining moment.
It's like she was saying, this is me, take it or leave it.
And people took it. They loved it. They saw someone who was confident, comfortable in their own skin. It was powerful.
It really was. And it wasn't just about looks, right? Her lyrics, especially in Maria, were all about self-acceptance, about embracing your individuality.
Absolutely. I mean, that line, why are you doing so much to fit in when you're born to stand out? It became an anthem for so many people.
It's true, though. I think we can all relate to that feeling of wanting to fit in, to be accepted. And here she was saying, hey, your differences are what make you special.
Exactly. It's that authenticity that's so central to her appeal. Now, another thing that's fascinating about Hwasa is her path to becoming a K-pop star. It's not the typical story.
Let's break that down for a minute. For those of us who don't know, what's the typical K-pop idol journey like?
Okay, imagine this. Kids, some as young as 8 or 9, auditioning for these huge entertainment companies.
We've all seen those documentaries. The competition is fierce.
It's unreal. And if they get chosen, they become trainees. Basically living and breathing performance for years.
It's like boot camp for pop stars. Intense training, right?
Totally. They're constantly training, singing, dancing, even learning languages, all while juggling school. And get this, there's absolutely no guarantee of debut. It's a lot of pressure.
Wow. And Hwasa didn't go through any of that.
Nope, she didn't. She grew up in Jeonju, South Korea, and she didn't join Mamamoo until 2014, which in K-pop years is practically ancient.
That's wild. So how did she even make it, without all that intense training?
Well, for starters, she's incredibly talented. But it was also her drive, her willingness to carve her own path. She didn't fit that mold of the polished, pre-packaged idol. She had this raw, undeniable talent that shone through, and people were drawn to it.
It's like she was this hidden gem, and the industry just had to take notice.
Exactly. And that unconventionality, it became her superpower. It made her relatable. Someone who'd proven there's more than one way to make it.
Speaking of toking it, let's talk about her solo career. Because things really took off for her in 2019, right?
Oh, yeah. Twit, that song was everywhere.
I remember hearing it constantly.
Yeah.
Was that her debut single?
It was. And it wasn't just catchy. It was like a declaration of independence.
I never thought of it that way, but it totally makes sense.
Right. Like she's saying, I'm in control. I'm setting the terms.
And then 2 years later, she hits us with Maria, which Wow, talk about vulnerability. That song was so different.
Completely. If Twit was her saying, I'm here, then Marie was like, this is my heart, and it's been through some stuff.
It felt so honest, so raw, especially for K-pop.
Right. She was tackling self-doubt, the pressures of fame, even calling out those nasty hate comment stuff that's usually kept under wraps in the industry.
It's like she was giving voice to all those things people, especially young people, feel, but aren't always allowed to talk about.
Exactly. And she did it with such strength. It wasn't just, oh, feel sorry for me. It was more like, this is my reality and I'm owning it.
That takes guts. And it resonated with so many people, which is incredible.
Absolutely. It's like she gave everyone permission to embrace their flaws, their struggles. Because if Hwasa can be vulnerable, well, then maybe it's okay for the rest of us to do the same.
I love that. It's so important, that message of self-acceptance.
Absolutely. Okay, but we can't talk about Hwasa breaking barriers without mentioning that Dua Lipa collaboration.
Oh yeah, that remix of Physical was fire.
So good. And talk about a power move. I mean, Dua Lipa is a global pop icon.
It definitely solidified Hwasa's place on the international stage.
For sure. And then she did all those appearances on South Korean variety shows like I Live Alone. Have you seen that one?
Oh yeah, that's that one where you see celebrities in their everyday lives, right?
Exactly. No fancy sets, no scripts, just them hanging out at home doing normal people things.
It's the best. I love those glimpses behind the curtain,
Yeah.
those moments that remind us that even huge superstars are just human.
Right. Like, I remember that clip of Hwasa trying to cook this elaborate meal, and it's a total disaster. She's burning stuff, getting flour everywhere.
Relatable content.
Yeah.
Makes you realize that even though they're incredibly talented and successful, they still deal with everyday struggles just like the rest of us.
Totally. Speaking of those everyday details, did you want to get into those fun facts you dug up about Hwasa?
Oh, yes. Okay, so fun fact number one.
Hmm.
Before music stole her heart, she seriously considered becoming a chef.
Seriously.
Dead serious. Apparently, she's always been passionate about food.
Well, it makes sense. She's always posting pictures of her cooking on Instagram.
Right, she's got skills.
Oh.
Okay, next fun fact. She's a huge animal lover, especially dogs.
Okay, that's adorable.
I know, she's always posting pictures with her pups. And last but not least, get this, she's multilingual. Like, she speaks English fluently.
Whoa, really? I did not know that.
Yep. She's mentioned in interviews how important it is to her to connect with fans from all over the world. It's really inspiring to see someone embrace their individuality like that.
Absolutely. And it translates to her music, her style, everything she does.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, her journey, her impact, those fun little quirks. But if we had to sum it up, what makes Hwasa such a compelling figure? Why should people care?
You know, for me, it boils down to authenticity. The K-pop industry can feel very manufactured, very image-driven. But Hwasa, she's unapologetically herself. She's talented, driven, ambitious, sure, but she's also vulnerable, a little goofy, someone who isn't afraid to laugh at herself. And that combination, that's what makes her so captivating.
It's like she's saying, yeah, I'm a K-pop star, but I'm also a real person, flaws and all. And that resonates with people, especially young people who are constantly bombarded with these images of perfection.
Right. And it's not just that she's saying it, she's living it. She's out there challenging norms, breaking down barriers, showing that you don't have to fit into this predefined box to achieve success.
It's interesting because her story is about so much more than just music, right?
Absolutely. It's about self-acceptance, about finding your voice, about embracing your individuality, even when the world tells you to conform.
Exactly. It's about the power of authenticity, of connection, of staying true to yourself even when it's hard.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, I think that's a perfect note to end on. We've explored the incredible journey of Hwasa, a true iconoclast who's redefining what it means to be a K-pop star, and more importantly, what it means to be yourself.
Absolutely.
That's a wrap on another deep dive, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep those deep dives going.